Before I tell you this story, I want you to promise me something. If you still have your parents alive, call them today, because I learned this lesson when I was 82 years old, and by then it was already too late. You see, for 17 years, my son lived only 20 minutes away from me. 20 minutes. That's less time than it takes to drink a cup of coffee. But for almost 2 decades, we didn't speak. Not because we hated each other, but because of one stupid sentence I said in anger. One sentence that destroyed our relationship for nearly 20 years. And the worst part, the last time I saw my son, I didn't know it would be the last time. So if you're listening right now, please stay until the end of this story, because the lesson I learned that day might save your family before it's too late. My name is Robert Whitman. I'm 84 years old now, and I spent most of my life believing I was a good father. I worked long hours, sometimes 12, sometimes 14 hours a day. I believed that was what a good father did. I provided for my family. I paid the bills. I kept food on the table. My children always had clothes to wear. And in my mind, that meant I was doing everything right. But there's something I didn't understand back then. Providing for your children is not the same as being present for them. My son Daniel used to follow me everywhere when he was little. Everywhere. If I went outside to fix the car, he followed me. If I worked in the garage, he followed me there too. He had this little wooden stool he used to carry around. He would place it beside me and sit there quietly, watching everything I did. Sometimes he would ask questions, lots of questions. Dad, what does this tool do? Dad, how does this engine work? Dad, why does the car make that sound? And I would answer quickly while still working, but I rarely stopped what I was doing to truly listen to him. Back then I always said the same thing. I'm busy, son, maybe later, maybe later. Those 2 words became a habit. I didn't realize it at the time, but children remember those words more than we realize. Years passed quickly. Daniel grew taller. His voice changed, and slowly, he stopped following me into the garage. I thought that was normal. Kids grow up. They find friends. They start living their own lives. But looking back now, I realized something else was happening. He stopped trying to talk to me. When Daniel turned 16, things changed even more. He spent more time outside the house, more time with his friends. Sometimes he would stay up late in his room. I would hear music playing from behind his door, but I never really asked what he was doing. One evening he finally came to talk to me. I remember it clearly. I was sitting in the living room watching television after work. He stood there for a moment, like he was nervous to say something. Then he told me. He said he wanted to become a musician, not a mechanic like me, not an engineer, not a businessman, a musician. He said music made him feel alive. He said it was the only thing he truly loved. But instead of supporting him, I laughed. I thought I was being realistic. I thought I was protecting him from making a mistake. So I told him something that I would regret for the rest of my life. I told him, that's not a real career. Grow up. I still remember the way his face changed. The excitement in his eyes disappeared, like a light being turned off. He didn't argue. He didn't shout. He just nodded quietly and walked away. And that moment stayed between us like a wall. A few years later, we had a huge argument, the biggest argument we had ever had. He told me I never believed in him. He told me I never listened to him. And I told him he was being unrealistic. I told him the world doesn't work the way he thinks it does. Voices got louder, anger grew. And then, in a moment of pride and frustration, I said the words that destroyed everything. I told him, if you walk out that door, don't bother coming back. For a moment he just stood there, looking at me, like he was hoping I would take those words back, but I didn't. And then he did something I never expected. He picked up his bag, walked to the door, and left. The sound of that door closing is something I can still hear in my mind today. Days passed, then weeks, then months. At first I thought he would come back. I thought he just needed time to cool down. But he didn't. Years passed, birthdays passed, Christmas passed, family gatherings passed, and every year the silence between us grew heavier. Sometimes I would pick up the phone, thinking about calling him. But my pride always stopped me. I told myself the same thing over and over again. He should apologize first. But deep down, I knew the truth. I knew I was the one who pushed him away. Then one evening, when I was 82 years old, the phone rang. I almost didn't answer it, but something told me to pick it up. When I said hello, I heard a voice I hadn't heard in 17 years. It was Daniel. For a moment, I didn't even recognize his voice. It sounded older, tired. But it was him. He spoke quietly, almost gently. He said, "Dad, I'm coming to visit tomorrow." My hands started shaking. 17 years, 17 long years. And finally, my son was coming home. That night, I barely slept. Memories kept running through my mind. All the things I should have said, all the things I should have done differently. When he arrived the next day, I barely recognized him. Gray hair, lines on his face. Life had clearly been difficult, but his eyes were the same. We sat at the kitchen table for a long time. Neither of us knew what to say. It was strange. Two people who once lived in the same house, now feeling like strangers. Finally, he spoke first. He said softly, "I just wanted to see you again." Then he told me something that broke my heart. He said he had always wanted me to be proud of him. Just those few words. And suddenly all those years of silence felt unbearable. Then he told me about his life. Do you know what Daniel had become? A musician, but not the kind I imagined. He wasn't famous, he wasn't rich, but he had spent years teaching music to children in poor communities, children who had nothing, children who needed hope. He told me music helped those kids believe in themselves. He told me he saw their lives change. In that moment, I realized something. My son had become a better man than I ever expected. And I almost missed the chance to know him. When he left that evening, he hugged me. It was the first time I had hugged my son in nearly 20 years. Before he walked out the door, he looked at me and said something I will never forget. He said, "Dad, I forgive you." 3 weeks later, I received another phone call. Daniel had been in a car accident. He didn't survive, and that was the moment I realized something. Pride destroys more families than hate ever will. And time doesn't wait for anyone. Not for apologies, not for second chances. So if you're watching this right now, and there's someone in your life you haven't spoken to in years, a parent, a child, a brother, a friend, don't wait. Make the call today, because one day you might wish you had one more conversation just like I do.